Hey, Ashley. Tell me
Hey, Kristen.
why you decided to seek my help.
All right. So this is my third year in Columbia, South Carolina, and um, when I first got down here, um, I thought that so I'm an athlete. I've always like done things. Uh, I participate in obstacle course races and things like that. Everything from like 5 miles to 15 miles, and I was always able to do them and I was actually pretty good at them, competing in like the open. But I'd never really looked at nutrition as fuel. But I had already kind of educated myself on what was healthy, right? So I could put together a plate that had like, a protein, a complex carb, maybe a vegetables or something, right? So sweet potato, broccoli, and chicken, right? But I didn't know anything beyond that as far as like how that food would fuel, let's say, these obstacle races. So back to moving here 3 years ago, I started a job where I was trying to save money. So I was like, well, I'm not going to join a gym because, there's a track um, at the place I work and I can run. And there's a gym that really didn't have much equipment. It was a lot of machines, but I could make it work because my apartment had like dumbbells and kettlebells and whatnot. And I had a jump rope and whatever. I thought I could make this work. Um, well, it didn't. I wasn't consistent with it. And I was working long hours and we would order things like pizza at lunch. And, all of a sudden I'm eating like 5 slices of pizza, right? Um, so I noticed that I was getting a little heavier. I never weighed myself because I just didn't do that. 37 years old, and I never cared about what I looked like or how much I weighed. But this moment in my life, I, my belly started, I could tell there was a difference. Well, I decided to go ahead and join a gym. I'm still not thinking about like nutrition or anything like that. I just, if anything, I would eat less if that was even a thing, that I would do. But that's what I thought losing weight was eating less. So in reality, looking back, I was inactive and I was eating more than normally, right? So I started working out at this gym and I loved it. And, people were great and everything. And I noticed that they would always talk about macros. They're counting macros. And, I did personal training like 10 years ago, and I would have people record what they ate, but I never really had them count anything. We would talk about like, the recommendations for carbohydrates are between 45 and 65% of your total calories. And I would guide them, and they figure that out though. And then we would just check to see if what they were eating was actually like benefiting them or not, like basically like, are you eating healthy? You know what I mean? And then, so I never, and it was just a couple of days because I did it and I absolutely hated it. I hated having to count, and it wasn't even macros. It was just calories at the time, 10 years ago, something like that. So anyway, I just didn't pay attention to it. I'd still go to the gym. I wasn't like, I just felt so worn out, you know what I mean? And my body composition wasn't necessarily changing. So I met with one of the coaches, and what they do is they have this program where they counted macros. And so they basically, that was it. I mean, I didn't really get much information about food quality or anything like that, because it was like, well, you can even eat Oreos, but if they fit within your macros, you're good. And they were just making a point, like if you, because it's more about like, your intake and whatnot, at least those are the things that I was told, if you want to, my goal was to shed body fat, but not lose any strength. So these numbers that I got was, low carbohydrates, high protein, and not very much fat compared to what I've been taught since. And, I didn't ask questions. I probably should have. But I thought the things that I was feeling for the next 20 weeks was normal. And so what happened was, immediately I just started losing weight, and it was probably the the decrease in carbohydrates, because I have since learned that we store 3 to 4 grams of water. Is it grams or milliliters? I don't know, whatever. But we store water with carbohydrates, right? So you shed the carbohydrates, you're going to shed some water. So that first week I lost 7 pounds. I mean, I still have all this stuff documented, right? So I saw benefits from counting macros, and I feel like my entire life, like the best way to change my body composition was to count macros, because I went from 130 pounds down to 109 pounds. And, you know, I didn't, again, I thought all these things were what everybody else was experiencing. But then I realized that everybody else at the gym quit. Like the majority of people didn't count macros for very long. They couldn't do it past 3 weeks. They couldn't do it past a week. They couldn't get it right after, you know, whatever. And once I realized that there were only like really not even a handful of people that were still continuing to do this, I just thought I was one of those people that could count macros, you know? But in reality, the things that happened, I guess just to make this a little bit quicker than it is, I was in a deficit, meaning my caloric intake was less than what my body needed for survival. So like I was down to like 13. I think based on my resting metabolic rate, I need about 13. Oh, no, that's basal. So resting metabolic, no, that's right. Resting metabolic rate is like 1346 for me. And I was eating almost close to 1200 calories, maybe 1254, something like that. So the things that happened within 20 weeks, I had 9 injuries, one pretty significant injury. Actually, they happened as like, it was like a snowball effect. The first one was pretty significant. I tore a muscle in my quad. So I started in March. In July of that year, I tore the muscle in my quad. I was able to recover from that though, I guess, but maybe not fully recover, but I was able to like get back and start running again within like a month and a half. So like not a complete tear, right? It was a second grade. Right. But within that, so after this, I stopped working with them because I just couldn't sustain it anymore. I was binging. I thought I actually had, like, I've never been diagnosed with an eating disorder, but I would eat like a whole jar of peanut butter. I would eat a whole thing of cookies. I would eat, which I have since realized that I wasn't getting the right amount of nutrients to support life. And so my body was starving and, you know, not getting the nutrients in the amount that I was supposed to get. And so I just couldn't keep it up. And what I was doing was lying to them when I would do my reports. And so I was like, I'm just going to quit working with them because I can't keep doing this, saying that I'm doing something when I'm not, you know, like saying that, yeah, I only ate this much when really I had eaten 1,000 calories more that day, you know? And so eventually, so it lasted March to December, and I stopped working with them. And then I started all the stuff, right? Intermittent fasting. I did that for 3 months straight. You know, I just thought that I could have some sort of control over this. Like I tried low carb, high fat. That didn't work because as an athlete, that just doesn't work. So the snowball effect from all of that, a year later, not only did I tear a muscle in my quad, I had bilateral iliopsoas bursitis. They had gotten that bad in my hips. I had, you know, small little tears in all 3 of the gluteal muscles on both sides. I had shoulder impingement here, stuff I'm still working with on this shoulder. I've got some hip stuff that I'm still working with professionals with that. And this is 2 years later, like, well, a year later, but 2 years after I started counting macros. So I also lost a period for a year and a half. And like none of this stuff even registered, that all these injuries, my period, because not the injuries, but the period. I let them know that I had lost my period, and they're like, well, once you lose fat, that's normal. Well, I've come to since find out that it's not normal, that you don't lose your period when you have, you know, it can happen, but it's not normal, right? There's a safer way. So March, so I quit working with them in December. Again, they were only giving me information based off the information I was giving them. So, I mean, it's like, I wasn't being completely honest with them, right? But I was also counting, things like all the carbs in kale, right? I didn't realize that the majority of that's fiber, and that doesn't like you don't count things like that, you know, if you're counting. And so that's what I mean when I was like starving myself, because I was basically like, I wasn't really eating rice or whole grains or anything like that. It was like kale, spinach, it was all the vegetables, right? As far as carbohydrates went. I even, when I started working with you, I even had an issue with fruit, you know what I mean? Because I thought fruit were high in carbohydrates. So it's crazy that like, I had a pretty substantial idea of what healthy was. And then I started doing this and got super obsessed because I saw results, because I was starving myself.
Right.
Like when you lose, again, I went from 130 down to 109 pounds, you know. I have no idea what my body fat percentage was, but obviously it was low because I lost a period for a whole year and a half. All right. So I was like, all right, well, it looks like I'm gonna need to get some help. So I had looked you up, and it wasn't the first time. I actually looked you up before working with them at the gym, but I was like, you know what? I know them. I'll go ahead and start working with them. So, you know, if I'd have started working with you and to begin with, you know, this whole thing may have not happened, but then at the same time, if this whole thing may not have happened, then maybe I wouldn't be where I'm at today too, you know,
Right.
with all the information that I have. And I'm still learning. So I called you, or no, I sent you I read all your stuff and saw that we had some similarities, obviously different, but some similarities. And so I reached out and just like, I like word vomit, I believe, in my message. It was like, I'm binging. I can't control anything. And, you know, this is what I did, and this is where I'm at. And I told you everything. And so I came in and we started talking, and, you know, I was so afraid you were going to ask me to like get measurements. I was so, cause I'd already put on, I think I was like back to like maybe 125, 128 pounds, you know what I mean? The weight was just creeping back on. Like it was just because I wasn't, it wasn't like I went from 1200 calories to 1250 to 1300 to 1350, like a gradual, like, what is it called? Reverse dieting.
Right.
But so like I was just eating, you know, thinking that intermittent fasting was working, thinking that not eating carbohydrates was working, you know. uh, I met with you. I told you that I had gone to the Army Wellness Fitness Center and got my stuff checked out, and my resting metabolic rate actually was down to 1009. And you tried to make me feel better by saying, well, you're a small person. And but it was just like, so like, wow, this actually happened, you know what I mean? And I know you've seen clients like that, but I couldn't believe it. This is the first time I'd actually ever had it tested, but all these calculations are saying that it needs to be around 1300 something, right? So you and I start working together, and I don't know, do you want to know more information about what it was like?
Sure.
Well, I was gonna get to like when you and I started working together, and
Yeah.
that like I come to you with like all these problems.
Yeah. Go for it.
So yeah, you like listened to me talk, and then, you know, you didn't ask me for weights, you didn't ask me for measurements, because those are the things that I was doing. I was weighing myself every day when I had never in 37 years worried about a scale, or 38. I started counting when I was 38. So never in 38 years worried about a scale.
Right.
You know, you obviously recognize the controlling part of counting that I didn't have any, like, I didn't know that that was a thing. You know what I mean? Like actually trying to be in control of something, but then losing control, like being out of control. And so you recognize those things, and you were just like, you know, at first it was like, um, we talked about intuitive eating, and that was such a far concept to me, because like I had completely so far away from those primitive, like hunger cues, being
Right.
full, things like that. Like babies know when to stop eating, babies know when to, like, when they're hungry. And so we talked about the numbers, like, you know, eat to your, like 10 would be like you're full, you know, like I can't eat anymore, this is like extremely full. And you know, you told me to be any, you know, between, I want to say like 5 and 7. Like I don't know if that's right. I
Yeah.
don't remember the, what's that?
To stop eating. Yeah.
Yeah, between 5 and 7. And so we worked on those things, like we worked on and food, like not being afraid to eat a biscuit if I wanted a biscuit, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
not being afraid to eat pizza if I wanted pizza, or ice cream, you know. It's, you know, there's no food out there that's bad, you know. You were talking about, it's just like basically the things that we worked on was like that relationship again, back to food, like, because it was such a bad thing for me for such a long time. And
Right.
not really even, it was like a year, but it like was so consuming, you know, my thoughts, everything, like, and people would be like, oh wow, you were shredded. And you know, I've shown pictures, not to like a bunch of people, but just to, you know, I've shown pictures of like, yeah, this is what I look like, but I was so miserable up here, you
Right.
know, like so miserable. Like it consumed my, it consumed me hanging out with friends. It ruined for me vacations with family, things like that. And so the things that you and I worked on was that, I mean, the first 3 months wasn't even about food. It was like the mental aspect of it, you know, like, you know, that intuitive eating, your body will get back to, you know, you were honest with me. You're like, I'm probably going to gain some more weight. And I did, you know, but your body has been through some trauma, and it needs to get back to, like, it'll get back to what it wants to, or it'll get back to where it's supposed to be. You just have to listen to it. And I had so far from listening to my body. It would be like, oh my gosh, I've got, you know, 50 more grams of protein that I have to eat, and it's 9 o'clock at night, you know, and I would eat those 50 grams of protein in egg whites, you know, wrapped in deli turkey, you know, because that equaled 50 grams of protein or whatever,
Right.
as opposed to like, oh, well, I didn't get the 50 grams today. Maybe I will tomorrow, you know, whatever. So yeah, the first 3 months that we worked together, because that's how your sessions, the program that I picked out, that's how it ran, was for 3 months, was just about rejuvenating, I don't know, reviving, I don't know, like
Relearning how to.
relearn. Yeah, exactly. Like, that relationship with food,
Right.
and how to understand that it is good for me, not bad. Carbs are not bad,
Right.
you know? So,
Yeah.
and
So
then,
what would you say has changed for you as a result of working together?
well, I definitely have, if not healthier relationship. Like before, you know, like I always just worked out, you know, and I was always able to do things, you know. I was good at things in the gym, and I was good at things on the race course. And so like, I never worried about, you know, what I looked like. And because for, let's say, a 2-month period, I got inconsistent in my workouts, and I ate still as if I was, you know, burning all those calories, and I put on the weight. It just tripped me out, you know. I got messed up. And so the benefits of working with you is, one, I got more information. I of that, like how to uh fuel my body for performance, because the last 3 months, because I think you and I worked together for 9 months.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not
Yeah, I mean, it was March all the way to December, because the last time, we talked about my last race, the last one I did in December.
Right.
Man, that's such a long time ago, but it was just last year. COVID really messed things up, didn't it?
Yeah.
So you know, it's the first 3 months was really just trying to relearn, and you know, like, take it easy, quit beating myself up, that kind of a thing. So I did that a lot. And that didn't even really have much to do with food at all. That was really all this, right?
Right.
And then, yeah, we didn't actually. And then I think the next 3 months, it was a combination with the last little bit, talking about food as fuel, and it was still real minimal, because, excuse me, I know why you did it too. I remember when I reacted to the amount of carbs that you said that I should have before, and I was like, what? I gotta have that many? Like, I couldn't even fathom having that many carbs, you know? And so like, you understood that this was a process for me, and like, I didn't even know it, you know? And you're like, yeah, we're not even gonna talk about that for a while, you know? And so working with you, I understand that my body needs food. I understand that my body needs all the macronutrients plus micronutrients plus water. I remember you asking me how much water I drink, and I was like, I just drink more coffee than water. And you were just like, well, your kidneys have to do a lot, and they have to, you know, they have to filter, and why don't we take a break and give it some more water instead? Well, that made sense to me. Like, I'd never thought about it like that, you know. Like, I was, you know, not that I'm punishing my kidneys with coffee, but the fact that they need water. My body needs water. I'm 60 to 70% made of water. So, you know, I thought I knew a lot about nutrition, especially like well, maybe not a lot, but like being honest, I thought like I could at least say, you know, these are, I guess, pick out healthy stuff, right? For, you know, and help assist clients in these equations to figure out what their resting metabolic rate was and blah, blah, blah. But everybody's so different, and you treated me differently than I know that you treat your other clients. You know, like they don't have a problem with food. They want to, you know, enhance their performance. You're talking to them about the amount, you know what I mean? But you recognize that you couldn't do that with me because that wasn't going to be helpful.
Right.
So you're able to see what my needs were and help me. So it was like, you know, understanding the relationship with food, understanding that I needed to know what that felt like to be full, to be stuffed, to be hungry. Like, are you even hungry? Oh, you said that to me one time too. You were like, if you will eat celery, then you're hungry. And I was like, well, that makes a lot of sense because I don't want to eat celery, you know?
Right.
So just being able to recognize those things, and listen to my body, because you just kept saying over and over and over, your body knows what it needs to do. Your body knows what it needs to do.
Right.
And sure enough, it does. Now, do I have everything perfect? No, I don't. You know what I mean? I'm still learning. So.
Yeah. So how do you feel like this has all impacted you in injury recovery, your sport, being in the military, and then also what you do for work? Sorry.
Well,
kids.
no. It's, well, you know, it's not a one size fits all. You know what I mean? And so, like, again, your approach to me was, wow, we got to start at the top. You know, we've got to fix the way she looks at food. You know, it's, I can remember being injured and not being able to do anything. Like last year when they thought I had, like either a torn labrum or a fractured hip because I was having so bad hip pain. And it was just the iliopsoas bursitis. And I couldn't lift my leg up, you know, and I did not do anything for 3 months. And you like, these are foods that are going to promote healing. These are foods that are going to help to not, like, you're not going to necessarily put on weight because you can't do anything, because these foods are going to help with, I don't know how to say it, like, because it's not like it's magical, like I'm not going to gain weight or whatever, you know, because I'm not doing anything. But nutrition is more important than the activity that we do, right? Mm-hmm. And, you know, these foods are going to be more important for healing. These foods are going to be more important for sustainment, as far as like your satiety. Is that how you say that word?
Right. Yep.
As opposed to just eating and not really focusing on how this food is, like we talked about earlier, like everything about me, every cell was made by something that I ate, you know? And so, with injury recovery, it's, man, I gave blood yesterday and the thought came through my mind, well, if I don't eat anything today, I'll lose weight. How like messed up is that, you know? Right. But quickly, conversations that you and I've had, I was able to like take that thought and just like, that's a lie. Like it doesn't, you know, like I just lost, I don't even know how much I gave. What, a pint? Is that how much
yeah,
whatever. It took me 13 minutes, which I was pretty impressed with, because and that's another thing. I hydrated properly. I ate and I slept before I gave blood yesterday, you know, as opposed to like staying up all night, you know, having some drinks or whatever, and then going in thinking, well, I can handle it, you know,
right?
Because that didn't work out in the past, you know. But so being more aware of what food does for me. It's not just, you know, it's not something to manipulate so that I have this appearance, because like you know, you always talked about like, my body knows exactly what it needs. It will tell you if you just listen, and you will get to whatever composition that is that you're supposed to be. Your body will get there, you know what I mean? But you have to listen to it. And it's like, I did a really hard workout on Friday, and it was a bunch of Olympic lifts. It was squats. It was just a whole bunch of, bar cycling and things like that. And, it's like, I didn't go home and like, you know, whole pizza and, all this stuff. It was like, what can I do to support what I just did in the gym?
Exactly.
What can I do to facilitate, protein synthesis and things like that? So those are the things that I learned working with you. It wasn't like, well, if you eat this many carbs and this much protein and this much fat, you're going to look like this. It's not about aesthetics. And, we live in this world of aesthetics, and I'm completely guilty of being there, right? Especially when I saw like however many abs that I have, I was able to see all of them.
Right.
But man, was I so just miserable up here. You know what I mean? And so like the things that I learned with you, I'm actually like happy for the most part, right? I don't think that, like I said, I mean, giving blood yesterday, the thought crossed my mind about how I like working with you. I don't want to damage my body anymore. Like,
Right.
yeah, like I want to take care of it. And I know how to take care of it now, as opposed to before where I was just beating it up in the gym and then starving it to death.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Am I done? Like, did I talk too much?